This episode sponsored by Lake Monster Details, producing the Don's Light and Magic Legacy line of parts, offering upgrade parts and decals for accuracy, special effects, and lighting. Visit www.lakemonsterdetails.com and make it glow. Also sponsored by GCals, producing aftermarket replacement decals and custom quality graphics for your favorite spaceships. Visit www.gcals.company.site and add some personalization to your sci-fi models today.
Hey fellow modelers, Will here. Welcome to the Ensign's Chair. Today is the day we are going to finish up the Golden Armour Big Bird of Prey that I've been working on for over a year. It's finally completed. I did have one thing I wanted to show you though before I wrap this up. I mentioned that the board had fried for the controlling the effects, and I think it was because it was overloaded after talking to Starling Tech and looking at some things. I think I put too many LEDs probably in the engines, and it was just pulling too much power and it fried the board. So I did order another one, but considering that, I think I'm going to use that in finishing up the 1350 Bird of Prey from AMT and get that done. But what I did was I came across some Arduino code to program an ATtiny85 using my Arduino Uno is what I have. And so we're going to take a look at that. I'm going to talk about what goes into it. I'm not really going to show how to build it because it's my first time building a board and I did have to do some fiddling to get it to work. But if anybody's got any questions about building that, please feel free to contact me, and I'll help you out as best I can. You can also contact Spencer Wolf with questions, and he's been more than willing to help me out, figure out how to build that board. But we'll take a look at that, and we'll take a final look at the Bird of Prey as it sits on the display stand. So give me a minute. We'll put you on the bench. We'll get to work. Alright guys, so here's everything you're going to need to make this soundboard. And I just want to say right off the bat that if you're looking to make your own soundboard because you think it's going to be cheaper than just buying the soundboard, you're wrong. It's not, unless you've got all or most of these supplies already because you do electronics already. This is not going to be cheaper and it's not going to be easier. But the one advantage to doing this is that if I want to make additional boards later, I can. Whether it be this board for this project or for another project, I've got some supplies, and hopefully I won't have to spend much more to have the stuff to make other boards. So that is one advantage. But if you're just looking to have one soundboard and you just want it for one chip, this isn't going to be the cheaper option for you. So I'm actually using a schematic and an Arduino program made by Spencer Wolf. And Spencer Wolf makes these cards and actually sells them. And they're only, I think he's only selling them for like 20 or 25 bucks. I'll put a link, excuse me, I'll put a link in the description below for it. They were out of stock when I looked, so I don't know how often he gets them back in stock. But Spencer Wolf helped me out a lot figuring this stuff out. So certainly hit him up and see, you know, I'm sure he's not going to have a problem helping you out too. Sorry, Spencer, if I send a lot of people your way, but hit him up, ask me, you know, I know how to do this board now, at least somewhat, but he did help me figure out some issues I ran into, which I'll go over with you, so hopefully you won't run into those issues as well. But this is everything you're going to need to make that board. You're going to need, first of all, the most expensive part I think that you're going to buy is probably the Arduino itself. Now this is an Uno, but you can also use a Nano, which is a little bit less expensive than the Uno, so there is that option. I think the Uno costs like 25 bucks, somewhere around there, and I think a Nano's maybe 10 bucks cheaper or something. But so you can use either one, but I'm using an Uno, so if you want to make sure that you know you're doing everything the same and follow along, then this is the board you're going to want to get. But you're going to need an Arduino Uno or Nano. You're going to need a breadboard, and I went on Amazon, just found a cheap breadboard, and this is what I got. It came with this, and it came with two breadboards, and it came with a connector so that you can plug this in to your board and run it off a 9-volt power supply. And if you don't have a 9-volt power adapter, that's okay, because it also came with this plug, which you can plug a 9-volt battery into, and then this plugs into your 9-volt plug on this, like so. But I use a 9-volt power supply because sometimes the 9-volt batteries, they get weak and the Arduino doesn't work properly. So just to make sure that you don't lose any power at a critical moment, you're going to want to get a 9-volt power supply to plug into that. So that's what I've got. I really only need this small one for this project though, so we're going to set this big one aside. Now in addition to that, you're going to need, after we get this programmed, you're going to need some circuit boards. And what I found was these circuit boards are basically a breadboard, but you solder once you get everything in place and you make sure it's working and you test it out. All you do is flip it over and solder all your parts in place. And this is what goes inside the model. So that's what I'm using for these. Again, I think I got these off Amazon. I'll put links for all this stuff in the notes below if you want to get this stuff. But it comes with a couple different sizes. Most of them are this larger size, which would also fit in my model because it's a larger model. But if you have a smaller model, you need to fit a board in. It only comes with one of the smaller ones, but I think you can get these with just the smaller size as well. But so I've got these that I'm going to use after I get this thing together with my main breadboard. I'll put everything in place on here, make sure it works again, solder everything, and that way I know it'll work. Now I got these, and these aren't really required, but Spencer recommended these, and I think these are called 8-pin dip IC sockets. And basically what this does is this lets you take your if I can get this thing open, this lets you take your AT-Tiny85 microchip, and instead of soldering that in, you solder this into the board. Let me pull one of these boards out so I can show you this stuff. Basically, you solder this into the board, and your AT-Tiny85 chip just plugs into this. And the benefit of doing that is, let's say if I burn the chip, if I burn the chip out, or if I want to update the programming to change it, or if I want to reuse the chip for another project, the chip will just pull out and plug in. So that way I can pull it out, update it if that's what I want to do, or take it out and reuse it somewhere else without having to resolder everything. So I got a pack of these. These come in, I think these are going to be real nice to have in case I burn in case I burn the chip up when I try to do this, or if later on I want to update the program, maybe make some changes to the programming. That's a good option to have, so I'm glad Spencer recommended that. In addition to that, you're going to need a couple of different types of, these are electrolytic, I did say that I wasn't an electronics expert, right? These are electrolytic capacitors, and you're going to need a couple different sizes, and I got these all separate, and then I realized that it's probably just cheaper to buy, and it was, to buy the one big box that has all these different electrolytic converters. I think this box cost me 10 bucks. And all these together, I think I spent like 25 bucks. So for half that price, you can cut a little money in the budget. Just buy the one big box. It comes with all the capacitors you need. And that way you got them all, you don't have to buy them separately. But you're going to need this one 10UF capacitor. And the only reason you really need one of those, and I've seen this posted in some spots where people use them, and then I didn't see some people use them in some spots, but I did it just anyway. I've seen a couple of posts recommend you plug a 10UF capacitor, electrolytic capacitor, in between the ground and the reset pin on your Arduino. And I think that's to keep the board from resetting or something. But and I'm going to be very, very general in my comments about stuff, because again, I am not an electronics expert. So, but I know just enough to be dangerous and to blow some stuff up. So. The other thing you're going to need is some NPN transistors, and we'll look at all this stuff. I'll show you the schematic that Spencer Wolf has for the layout for this. But these are NPN transistors, and from what I understand, these boost your power so you can get a little more juice out of a 9-volt power supply, or out of the 5 volts that's going to be running through the AT-Tiny85 when we're done. So you're going to need some of those. I've got the 50 volt but I think these come in a lower voltage. I didn't really need it that high, but that's what came up on one of the links that Spencer sent me. So that's what I got, but it works. You're also going to need some voltage regulators, and these are 5-volt voltage regulators. So basically I put a 9-volt power supply into this. 5 volts is going to come out the other side, and that is so I run my models on 9 volts, and I'm not sure if these will go up to 12 volts. They may. I'd have to look into that. I always run 9-volt power supplies to run the internal lights, and I don't want to have to run a separate power supply to power the AT-Tiny 85. So I've got these 5-volt voltage regulators, which I actually used in my TOS build, if you look back, to reduce the spin on the buster collectors, which was a recommendation by Boyd. So I've had these for a while. So fortunately I already had these. But so you're going to need some 5-volt voltage regulators. You're going to need some 0.1 UF ceramic capacitors. And basically they look like this. And again, I'm going to put these links in the notes below so you can get them. But you're going to need some of those. And again, these electrolytic capacitors, you just get the big pack of them. You're going to need a 47 UF capacitor, and you're going to need a 4.7 UF capacitor, both which come in this pack, which I could have bought for less. There's your 4.7, and there's your 47 UF. Now the 4.7 is a 50 volt in this pack. It don't really matter. But the 47 UF comes in a 10 volt and a 25 volt. I'd probably use the 25 volt just because I'm pushing 10 volts on my power supply, but I don't know if that matters. But again, that's what I used, was the higher voltage. That way, I was safe. But so you need that, and then last but not least, you need an AT-Tiny 85 microchip. And I highly recommend you get the genuine article and not the cheap ones that I've seen on the internet. I tried some of the cheaper ones and I could not get them to work. And then I ordered some of these genuine, what do you call this, Atmel AT-Tiny 85 chips, and they worked fine. So spend a couple extra bucks to get the genuine article. But so that's what we're going to need for that. Now, as far as getting this hooked up, let me pull this off because I don't need that right now. And let's move some of this stuff out of the way. Because the first thing we're going to have to do is get this AT-Tiny 85 programmed using the Arduino. And I would highly recommend you go and watch a couple different videos about programming these AT-Tiny 85s. There's some videos out there. I probably won't go into as detail about it because, again, I'm not an electronics expert. But basically what I did was I watched a couple of those videos and I figured out how to hook these up. I took my chip, and when you look at these, you want to look for the dot. That indicates your pin 1, or at least what they're calling pin 1, and that's complicated too, so I'm not going to get into the pin numbers, but look for the little dot in the chip there. I don't know if I can get this on camera, but it's probably going to be blurry, but there's a little dot on there that indicates which one's your pin 1. And I'm going to plug that in to my breadboard with pin 1 on this side here, in this corner. So from there's a schematic to look at. Let me flip this around to show you what I'm looking at here. There's a schematic that shows you which pins plug into from your Arduino into your chip here. So your pin 1, you see that dot in the top left, right here, your top left, that's pin 1. So that is going to be plugged into your Arduino 10 pin on your Arduino board. Pin 11 is going to go to pin 5, which is the opposite side here. Pin 12 goes to pin 6, and pin 13 goes to pin 7. Pin 8 goes to your 5-volt power supply on the Arduino you can use, and it shows that right here. And then on this side, your only other pin you need to connect is your ground to the Arduino ground. So It shows some looks like some capacitors or that here, a resistor. I didn't use any of that on mine. I'm not sure what this is here, but I just connected these straight up to my board. And let's see, we need 11, 12, and 13. So let me switch you back here. So we've got 11 plugs in here, 12, actually it's not pin 11, pin 11 here, pin 12, and pin 13. And then you've got your ground. Plugs in here. And our power plugs in on this corner here. And then this is pin 10. Let's look back at the yes, pin 10 is this corner here. All right. So this is basically how it will plug up to the Arduino. Let's try to get a little closer. But that's how it's all plugged up. Just make sure you don't mix up your power and your ground, because you'll fry the board, or you'll fry your chip if you do that. But double check everything again, make sure we're good. So we got pin 13, gray connects there, pin 12, and pin 11. All right, so we've got everything connected up there. So next thing is going to be, I got to find my connection, my cable for the Arduino, because you see it takes a certain USB cable. So give me a second. I'm going to go find that real quick, and we will come back and continue. Stay tuned. All right, guys. So I am not the one. I am not experienced enough to sit here and tell you how to connect this and program the ATtiny85 with the Arduino Uno or Nano. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link a video. I'm going to link this video in the notes below from Levi Jansen. He basically goes over step by step how to set up the Arduino to program the ATtiny85. And he also shows you everything all the way through, doing a blink sketch to make sure that you've got it set up right. Definitely make the change he recommends as far as using old wiring, because that's I couldn't get my the bootloader to burn until I did that, and then finally I was able to get the bootloader to burn. And the issue I ran into, though, outside of this, now when you go into the programmer here, the Arduino IDE, basically what you see him do is he'll click this button to upload. Well, the problem I ran into, I'll try it now and see. I just burned the bootloader onto this chip. Let's see if I can get this to upload. Now you'll see this is the error I got. It says down here, a programmer is required to upload, even though I've got the programmer set to Arduino as ISP. So here's what Spencer told me, and here's what I had to do. If you go under Sketch and you click Upload Using Programmer, and we'll give it a second. And I can't really see. I had to disconnect my camera because I had to plug my Arduino Uno in. Now you see it said down here, done uploading. So it successfully uploaded that way, but the other way it would not upload for me. So just a tip for you in case you run into that same issue. If you go up here to Sketch and click Upload Using Programmer, it'll upload. Now the sketch itself, you can see, is right here. If you go to, I'll put the link for this as well below, but if you go into Google and just type Klingon Bird of Prey Arduino code. The first link that comes up is going to say Klingon Bird of Prey Arduino code and build files. If you click on that, that's going to take you to the page where Spencer Wolf's files are at. And again, he provides these free. Now, he does make these boards, and I will post the link for that as well. Like I was saying, it's not cheaper to make these boards yourself. Unless you're going to make multiple boards, then maybe eventually it'll be cheaper. But I think he only charges like $25 for the board. He didn't have any on hand when I talked to him, but you just keep an eye out. You just keep checking back. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, or you don't want to spend the money to build boards, then you just go to that website and just keep an eye out. Maybe shoot him a message. He's on Facebook. Shoot him a message and ask him if he knows when he's going to have an ETA on some more of those boards. But anyway, when you get to his page here, he's got to cut this Gerber's thing. Don't worry about that, because all that is about is making the micro boards to solder everything. And I ordered some. They're really cheap, but I still haven't figured out how to use them. I wouldn't worry about messing with those. If I was going to do that, I would just order the board from him. I think I got like 5 of these boards from the link he shares, which I believe is down. I don't remember where the link is, but here's a link where you can order the boards to solder everything onto. But again, like I said, they're not the through-hole version, and I don't know how to do the surface soldering for those. But he's got a couple different things. If you click this link here, it brings up, this is basically just the connections. I think these are the connections to program the chip, which you've already got if you watch the video I'm gonna share. What you need is this one here, this .ino. Open that up, and this is your sketch file here. And basically you just take this and you copy everything. Not all that, but everything down to the bottom here where it says end pseudo-random generator. Right click it, click copy, and then what you're going to do is go over to your Arduino IDE, and if there's anything in here, delete it out, and then just right click up here, click paste, and you're going to end up with your code pasted like this. And that's basically, you're just going to, like I said, you can try clicking this upload button. If that doesn't work, go to Sketch, click upload using Programmer. It should upload just fine. And once you got that uploaded, your ATtiny85 is ready. He's also got on this page that you're going to want to check out. Let's see. Let's go back here. You're also going to want to take a look at down the bottom here. He's got a version of the schematic here. All right, this schematic is going to show you all the wiring, where all your, let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Where all your resistors, your capacitors, all those are going to go. You've got your 47 UF capacitor here, your 4.7 on this side. Here's your voltage regulator. If you don't know how to read wiring diagrams, you're going to have a hard time doing this. But basically everything that controls the board is down here. And I'll show you everything once I get everything set up on here. I'll show you what it looks like once everything's put together on the board. But once you get everything soldered up, and you can practice to set it up on the breadboard, try it out. And if you got any questions, feel free to shoot me a message. Like I said, see if you can get a hold of Spencer Wolf too. He knows a lot more about this setup than I do, because this is his schematic, his setup, and his Arduino code. So, but basically you've got your engines run off of your engines. The positive for your engines is going to connect to the positive coming in, and then your negative side on your engines is going to run through an NPN and connect to pin 6. It's also going to run through a 1 kilowatt or kilo ohm resistor, and it's going to connect to pin 6. And then you've got your disruptors. Also, your positive from that's going to connect to the positive line. Your negative is going to connect to an NPN and a 1 kilo ohm resistor, and that's going to connect to pin 5. I don't know why that does that. Now, the opposite is true for the torpedoes. On the torpedo, your negatives connect to pin 2 and pin 3. It uses 2 separate LEDs for the torpedo effect. You get one LED does the ramp up, one LED does the flash to simulate the photon firing. So you've got two separate LEDs. The negative for that's going to connect to pin 2 for one of the LEDs and pin 3 for the other, and both the positives are going to, oh, I'm sorry. The negative is going to connect to the main negative coming in. Your positive is going to connect to pin 2 and to pin 3. Whereas on this side, it was the negatives that were connecting. So a little bit of a difference there. So don't get that mixed up. Your torpedoes, your negative connects to the main negative coming in, and your positive connects to the pins 2 and 3 for your photon effect. So that's basically the gist of it. Like I said, if you're not familiar with reading wiring diagrams, I know this looks really confusing, but it's not too bad once you get your head wrapped around it. So give me a minute, and I will get this set up, and we'll take a look at my setup, what I'm going to be working on putting into the model now. So give me a minute, and we'll be back. All right, so you can see I got a bit of a mess here. So you can see I've got my control panel I was working on. It was based on the photon control panel from Star Trek 6. I've got the little speaker box that was next to it too. This actually has my speaker in it. And this knob on the side lets me adjust the volume on that. I've got an amplifier inside. Because the sound is all coming off of this Adafruit sound effects card. And this comes in a couple different flavors. It comes in, this is a 2 megabyte. I should have gone larger because I only had enough room to fit about 3 sound files on here. And definitely if you're going to try this route, or you're going to try to use this board from Adafruit, definitely get the bigger board. Well, I think it's got 8 megabytes or maybe 16 megabytes, I can't remember, but 2 megabytes, you're not going to fit a whole lot on it. And there's a lot of options. I think there's like 10 or 11 separate switches on here. It's really easy to program. You plug into it with a micro USB, and it plugs into your computer, and it's just like a drag and drop folder. There's certain ways you name the files that let it know which trigger it's assigned to, and it's all easy. You look it up on the Adafruit website, and it tells you exactly how to name the files. And they've also got these boards to where you can get them without an amplifier and with an amplifier. This board here doesn't have an amplifier because I was already planning on using a separate amplifier, which I've got housed right here. You can see it in the board, see it in my speaker box here. So it's housed in there, and I knew I was going to be using that, so I got the one without the amplifier. These boards without the amplifier run about 20 bucks, so not expensive at all. Pretty good option if you want to use it for adding sound to your models. They've also got this, I don't know why I got this one with the headphone jack. I should have just gotten the other one with, they've got the ones where you can just put the, plug your wires in, and I think there's a screw that tightens down and hold it in place. I should have done that one. I'll do it next time, but this one, I for some reason, I bought the headphone jack one thinking it was going to be easier, and then I had to modify this headphone jack cable to have male ends on both ends. So a little more work than I should need to do there, but live and learn. Next time I'll get the other one. So that's where all my sound is coming off of. I've got 3 sound files on here, and I had to edit the sound files and add a little bit of silence at the beginning of each one to kind of get it to sync up with the photon effect and the Canon effect that you're going to see here. And let me turn this light off so that you can see this. It's still a little daylight out, it might be hard to see, but these 2 lights here indicate or are mocking up the photon effect, which I've got 2 separate LEDs in my Big Bird. And so I'm glad that this setup allowed for it to have a ramping up effect and for a firing effect. But the other great thing about this, and again, it's a little light in here still, so I don't know if you can tell, but it actually keeps a dim light for your photon tube. So I like that idea, that effect that it's going to bring, that it's going to keep light to it, so at least you can tell it's there, it's active. So even if the model's just sitting there static, you're not using any of the effects, it's going to light that up, and it's going to make it look great while it's just sitting there. So I like that this option allows that. And also for your Canons, which is this green LED here, it does keep those lit as well. So again, nice static effect, keeps it lit up for you. So you're not just getting the light out of it when you're pushing the button. And when you've got the firing going on, you've got a little bit of light coming out of there. But so I like that. And this red here, I don't know how much you're going to be able to tell from it. but it does have a slow pulse to it. It's kind of a gradual fade down and ramp up, fade down, and it's a pretty cool engine effect. So that's for the engines. I'll get that all hooked up and that'll look good. But I had to do some creative thinking on this because if you remember, I originally was using the Starling board to control my Big Bird of Prey. Well, first I fried the sound card part of it. That was my fault. I touched the negative together. There was something else and it burned it up. But then I had a problem where the effects card stopped working. Everything just stayed lit up. Nothing would work. I would push a button, and after talking with those guys over at Starling I think the 6 LEDs for my engines is just too much for that control chip to handle. So what I decided to do was I did some research on the internet, and I came across, and I'm going to share this link. I'll share all this information. I'll put it in the notes down below. Oops, excuse me. I'll put it in the notes down below, but I got a lot of messages popping up now. Turn that off. But I came across a schematic from Spencer Wolf that would allow me to use. Now remember, I've already got the model together. I've already got the cables run up the pole, and I can't really add anything else to it as far as control cables. The way the Starling board was, when I pushed the button, it would fire the phasers or the cannons and the photon just randomly. It will just fire it. This one actually allows me to control them individually. And the way it does that is Spencer Wolf incorporated a bit of code that he came across from somewhere else that allows you to fire one thing by just pushing the button and fire the other thing by holding the button down momentarily. And it lets the board know that which effect it needs to fire just by that one control wire. So that was great. Now I can control both of these. The issue I ran into then was getting sound effects for each of those items, and that's when I came across the Adafruit sound card. And what I came across was I can trigger the sound card with the same button, but the problem was, without a way to separate it out, you're going to get the cannon fire, for example, for both of these, or vice versa. Because the ground, there's no way really to separate out that ground because I only have the one ground wire going up into the model. So what I came up with was a switch that will let me switch between the sound effects. And basically, so when I press the button, sometimes I got to press it twice before the board wakes up. I bet my wire came loose again. Alright guys, sorry about that. It took me a minute to figure out what wire came loose, but using these breadboards, some of these wires don't fit in these breadboards tight. So figured it out, and let's give it a go. So I figured out a way to get this all kind of running with what I already had existing inside the model. So push this button here, and you see we get that ramp up, and then the green flash when it fires. So I like that it has that. Now again, like I said, because I've only got the single ground wire to work with, I had to figure out a way to switch, and literally switch between the sound effects. So what I did was I came up with a switch, and it lets me switch between the grounds and actually switch the ground off on one of the sound effects. So what I can do is, when I want to fire the photons or the cannons, switch it over and then just hold this button down, and you see that's going to fire the cannons. So I think this setup's going to work for what I need. So now I've just got to get everything together. This switch will go into this opening that you see here on my control panel, which I don't know if you can make out the display on there. Let me turn this light back on. I think it was showing up better with the light on. There you go. And you can see my backlit control panel here, or view panel. And all my switches, once I get these, this switch will turn the model lighting itself on and off. And this switch here may or may not do anything. I don't know. I got to look and see. I didn't really have a plan in place when I put three switches in place here. Well, actually I did, but my plans have changed. So we'll see. I may or may not have anything for that. But in addition to those sound effects, for a little nostalgia, I also added this in. Alright guys, again, breadboards. Once I get everything soldered in, it'll be good. But right now I'm having an issue with some of these wires coming loose every time I go to try to do something. But I do have this sound effect too. I don't know if the microphone's picking this up. But this little knob on the side lets me turn the sound down. So if I don't want it that loud, if I want to let the music play, I can just let it play and turn it down. And this is on a loop. This one's set up to play on the loop. So when I push the button, it'll just keep looping the music until I push the button again. And I'll stop it. So anyway, that's kind of my setup. I've got to get everything in the display case now, and sorry about the technical difficulties to start off this video, but let me get this all situated, hopefully get everything put together, and we'll come back and take a look.
Alright guys, so here it is, all complete, finally, after a little over a year of work, but a lot of that was because it was stop and go, and I wasn't really able to dedicate the time to it I would have liked to have. But she's all done now, and I'll be bringing her the Wonderfest. It was actually a blessing in disguise, I guess, that the FX cards didn't last that I tried on this, because I do like that the photon with the new card setup, the photon stays dimly lit, and so do the both the wing cannons. So I like that effect. Let's take a look at press this button here. And get the photon effect. And then we flip the switch here down. It changes between the effects, because remember, it's only one ground button that's running in between these. And if we hold this button down, we then get our wingtip cannon effects firing. And those turned out real nice. And then we'll flip the switch back. And we can fire our photon again. So, turned out real nice. The lighting's real good on it. And like I said, I will be bringing this to Wonderfest. And once I'm done showing it at Wonderfest, we'll be taking offers if anybody's interested in purchasing this. Just shoot me a message on Facebook, and I'll consider any offers on it. But
alright guys, so that's pretty much going to do it for the Golden Armour Bird of Prey build. It's been a long time coming. It's finally done. I'm totally happy with it, and looking forward to moving on to some other builds now. So once I get this out of the way, I'm hoping to have time before Wonderfest. If I don't, though, before I do the I put out a video about the Ian Lawrence 1350 Enterprise A build that I'm looking to do. But before that, I do want to finish up the 1350 Bird of Prey that I was working on last year that I put a hold to, so I could finish up the Golden Armour in time for Wonderfest. I'd like to get this done as well before Wonderfest, so hopefully we'll get that knocked out. I'll get some videos out on that, and we'll get that one wrapped up as well. So once I get back from Wonderfest, I can start on that Ian Lawrence tribute build. But anyway, guys, I hope this has been informational. If you guys have been watching the entire series and you have a 3D printer, hopefully you found some interest in this model. It's a great model. They continue to do great work on this over at Golden Armour, adding on some additional things and making it even better. So anyway, guys, that's it. I appreciate you watching. Till next time, keep modeling.